Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of A Piece of Ash. This is my monthly sit and talk sort of Q&A show where you can ask me questions, find out what I've been working on, find out what I think about things, and generally just sort of talk hobby with me. Now I usually sit and hobby while I do this, and today I'll be painting some miniatures for Bushido, some Snake Samurai that I'll be using against my buddy Jan to try out the game in a Let's Play later on this month, which you will see sometime in July. So now you're probably thinking this was a week late. The reason I'm posting this a week later than I normally do, this piece of ash, is that today, actually, as you watch this, Guerrilla Miniature Games as a YouTube channel and the co-op turn 1 year old. It has been 365 days since I posted my first official go live on the channel video. Without all the sort of like bits and pieces I did before that, before the Indiegogo and stuff like that. And wow, yeah, there's gonna be a whole separate video on that, but this sit and talk is part of that sort of like birthday celebration. If you wanna watch the birthday video, click the link below. In the video description, you can check out all the stats for what and how we did during the course of the year. But as part of the birthday celebration for the channel, I will be giving away, now these are not for sale, these are gonna be giveaways, a Guerrilla Miniature Game gauge, custom measuring gauge, whoop, which you can see right here. These are 8 inches by 2 inches by 4 inches by 1 inch, so perfect for games like Infinity, perfect for games like, what's it called? Kings of War, or any of the games where 8 inches, 4 inches, and 2 inches are a standard measurement. It would probably be fairly perfect too if you play Khador and War Machine, like I do. I have very few of these. I had just a small run of them made up for the birthday celebration, and I'll be giving them to Patreon backers and to people who like and watch the birthday videos. So one lucky subscriber who watches this video, all you have to do is like the video, subscribe, and comment in the comments saying, give me that gauge, and I will raffle it off at the end of the first week. There's going to be a weekly giveaway of one of these to my Patreon backers too, just as a thank you guys for being part of the channel. So anyway, I'm going to paint some Snake Samurais and pile into the questions, and we'll get started. I usually go for about an hour and try and get through as many questions as I can. Because we collected for an extra week, I do have like 50 something questions this time around, so if I don't get through them all, just ask them again. And you can ask a question by clicking the link in the video description below, jumping on to SurveyMonkey, and that will let you ask it right away. So I do answer them in order that they come in, so if you didn't get one done this week, the sooner you get your answer, your question for next week, or next month, sorry, for July, the more likely it is to get answered. So let's dive in. First question, Guerrilla asks, we'll be playing Blood Eagle, the Viking skirmish game. It has a warband creator, so I'm making ninjas. If you could add anything out of genre to a game you play, what would it be and why? It's funny because so many of the games I play mix genres anyway. Like in Malifaux, you can have cowboys and giant robots in like the same game. Even in Infinity, you can have werewolves and like some fantasy stuff. So it's hard to say because most of the games I play kind of cross genres. Let me think. I think it would be, how about this? I think it would be super cool to be able to play Infinity with zombies. So to see some zombie apocalypse kind of stuff in Infinity, I think would be hella cool. And that would be my answer. So it might be the kind of thing I do for like a Halloween special. Who knows? Crownblade asks, hey Ash, will I be going to any conventions this year and will I be filming at them? The answer is probably no. I don't go to a lot of conventions. And the simple question to that is, or the answer to why that is that I used to work lots of conventions, and so they're not really like vacation-y for me. They just, they're not, I don't know. I don't go to those things to kind of relax. And of course, the average person goes to those things to be able to be exposed to and be around their hobby and immerse in their hobby for like a whole bunch of days in a row, and I kind of get that all the time. So it's not, I don't have, I guess, the average draw of a convention goer, and plus, I mean, I'm responsible for my kids, and that means that any free time I do have when I'm not working, I tend to want to just spend with them. So my idea of vacation is taking my kids to like a provincial park for a weekend and hanging out and having a good time, you know, hunting caterpillars and chasing bugs and stuff. So I doubt you'll see me at any conventions. If I do go to one, it might be because I get flown down by somebody to go do a talk or to be there or whatever, but I probably won't just sort of casually be going to any conventions. So sorry, but that's the answer. Doc Remington asks, am I a Gorker or a Morker? So am I cunningly brutal or brutally cunning? Probably a Morker, I would say. But I'm sometimes a Gorker. It kind of depends on my mood and how you cross me. So I could be brutally cunning, I could also be cunningly brutal. It's a quandary. It's one of life's great mysteries, whether you're a Gorker or a Morker. Pacific Rim Job, one of my favorite question names, asks, can we get Team Clarence t-shirts in the GMG store? You could even get Clarence to do the design. I don't think I get Clarence to do the design. I think I'd probably just do the design myself. But Clarence is my homeboy, is something that I've been thinking about doing his t-shirts for a while. And in fact, I am looking at doing new merch for 2016, and I'm sort of exploring options for that. I'm really excited about one of them. I'm hoping that it comes through. And for the other ones, it's just a matter of like, I have time to do it more than anything else, which is usually my barrier for everything, right? Like it's to make a video every single day and have two toddlers and all that stuff is a lot of work. And so all the extra stuff has to kind of fit in around the hours that I have left, which are not many. But Team Clarence shirts, I'm sure they would sell well. Or at least sell well in the beginning when the novelty was still there. Neticus asks, hey dude, do you watch Game of Thrones? If so, who do I think will sit on the Iron Throne at the end? And how do you think it's gonna play out? That's a good question. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't seen the show, but most of like the fan theories from the last little while about where George R.R. Martin was going or everything have kind of come true. So like, the whole thing with Jon Snow not being dead obviously came true. The whole thing with who Jon Snow actually is and who Jon Snow's real dad is has kind of also come true. So yeah, it's entirely possible that that whole thing, that putting a Targaryen back on the throne doesn't mean Daenerys. And Snow being on the throne would be kind of like the big hurrah sis boom bah that everyone was kind of hoping for because everyone loves Jon Snow. But at the same time, it just seems too obvious. Like it seems like the thing that like that they'll lead up to, like they're gonna build up to it for this entire season, and then it won't happen for whatever reason. He'll get killed or he'll say no or whatever. Like, because that's his whole shtick, right? Is he's the reluctant hero. So he just wants to keep his family safe and be safe, and he'll go to war for the right reasons, but all of his like faith in that's been shaken right now because he gets murdered by his own buddies. So we'll see. I don't know. I think that Snow's kind of the logical one right now. It could still be Daenerys, but who knows? It's kind of anybody's game at this point. There's not a lot of like candidates left. It's probably just going to be it's going to be, what's his name? It's going to be Tyrion. It'll end up being Tyrion because reasons. Warboss D asks, your cool channel suggests, like me, that you're a gaming magpie rather than a loyalist. What tips do you offer to help our club temp loyalists and take a broader range of games under their wing? So I think the first thing is, I am definitely a magpie when it comes to my interests, but I'm also like a completionist. Like I don't tend to move on until I've at least accomplished the thing I wanted to accomplish in the game I'm currently working on. So I think the most important thing with getting people, especially in a club setting or a store setting, to try a new game is they have to see people playing it. Just like a party in high school, like you didn't go to the party that you didn't think anyone was going to show up to. You went to the party that people had already told you was awesome in the past and that lots of people were going to. So I think that's kind of key, is that people need to be seeing playing a game. And I say that a lot. Like if you want to get a game to be into a store, you have to be able to show it to people and even offer people to play. So painting a couple different armies and being willing to loan people an army and teach them how to play so they can give it a go and be like an unofficial demo representative of that game is probably the best way. And it's a lot of work. It means you got to paint twice as much stuff and you got to be willing to teach people the ropes and have like a little intro game ready, but it will get you opponents, let me tell you. There is nothing that will get you more opponents than being willing to both teach and loan people and stuff they need to play a game. And yeah, and it's hard work, but it pays off. So it's a grind, and you add a few people here and there, but once you've added enough people, you then have the knock-on effect of it. It snowballs, right? It collects more people as it goes. Those people go out and collect people, and so on and so on. Spanky asks, hey Ash, huge fan of your channel, but why are your videos getting shorter? You start with like 40-minute videos, now they're like 25. It all depends on the game, dude. If I post lots of videos of skirmish games, they tend to be shorter, right? So like the average game of like Dark Age at 500 points is like 7 to 12 models. It usually only takes about half an hour of recorded footage to show you the whole game. Whereas a game of 40K can take like an hour and a half, which is again why huge games of 40K I find so unappealing, because it's just, I could play like 4 games of one thing or 1 game of another, and I just, it gets a bit grueling. Too many guys. So yeah, the more skirmish games things you see me post, the more you're going to see shorter like game lengths. But I'm pretty sure I posted at least half my videos are over 40 minutes. Like I can't think of a video. Yeah, it's usually like a game like Mordheim or Malifaux will be shorter, but even Malifaux can go like 45 minutes to an hour. And 40K certainly can. Not sure, that's an Idiocracy reference, asks, have you ever had a song or album or by a band performing artist influence your creative vision when working on a warband or a terrain project? Yes, indeed I have. I was listening to Age of Winters by The Sword almost entirely through making my Frostgrave table and painting all my Frostgrave stuff. And yeah, like that album probably, if you guys haven't heard Age of Winters by The Sword, it's basically an entire album about like Vikings and Conan and Game of Thrones and Warhammer, basically. Like you just listen to that album and make some like Chaos Warriors or Barbarians or something like that, and you will have lots and lots and lots of inspiration through music. It's pretty great. I don't lick brushes, I suck asks, what would you like to see from the rebirth of Battlefleet Gothic? Bring back the old model lines or new design totally? Well, the thing with Battlefleet Gothic was it was all about a time and a place, and I kind of like that about the game. So literally in the title, Battlefleet Gothic, it's about the Gothic War. It's about Archaon invading the Gothic sector and bringing the Blackstone Fortress online and murdering lots and lots of Imperial citizens. And so you kind of have to take that in that genre, those spaceship games, they're setting it sort of as period pieces. And I think that's super cool. So I kind of like that about it, and I would hope that if they do another spaceship game, they just pick a new setting for it. Because I think we know about the Gothic War now. I would love to explore the history of another war through another spaceship game. So. And I think the big rumor right now is that they do Horus Heresy. And that'd be super cool. You could do there's a bunch of different famous fleet battles or fleet engagements that you could do through that. And what's cool about the Horus Heresy is it's just like when they did Adeptus Titanicus back in the late 80s, early 90s. You could have the same pieces on both sides, right? Because everyone's an Imperial or a Loyalist. And you can maybe have one or two ships that are different on either side. Like you have like a character ship almost that's like up the battle barge of such and such legion. But for the most part, like a Gloriana class battleship is going to be a Gloriana class battleship. And so you could basically have your two sides be interchangeable, and it would make for lots of... Actually, it would make for basically the same strength of Betrayal at Caliph Box had, where you could use them as two armies, or you could use it as one huge fleet. So if I bought a starter set and you bought a starter set, and we didn't want to split it, we could still use all the ships in our fleet and play a huge Gothic game as opposed to just playing like a half and half Gothic game. Andrew asks, what do you think of the new Haki Slam Margarita Guard? I think it's awesome. It looks like a big giant Appleseed mech. I think it's super cool. I'll probably... I'm gonna pay one at one point. It's super cool. I haven't started my Haki Slam army, and actually, the reason I'm doing Toha and Yuqing for this season of ITS. So between February and August, because it's a shortened season this year, because that's when Interplanetary is, and that was my promise, my commitment to you guys. So that's what I was gonna do. So I'm gonna try and knock off the rest of the Yuqing stuff I want to paint, and a few more bits and pieces for my Toha army, and then I want to do the next season. I want to do 2 new armies, and I'm considering. I have Haki Slam I could do. I have Onyx that I could do, which would be super cool. I have USAR I could do. I kind of want to just bring in a whole new faction though, as opposed to just doing a sectorial for a faction I already play. So I'm considering doing Onyx. I'm considering doing Haki Slam because I do have tons of unpainted Haki Slam stuff. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. I'm also considering, I bought Caledonia, and I'd love to do Caledonia because I just feel like playing with the Highlanders against spaceships and robots is just fun and different and interesting. Dances with Dreadnoughts asks, that's Clarence. That was my nickname for him. Actually, it's my nickname for his Chaos Lord. Ash, now that you've played Kings of War 9th Age, can you tell us the thoughts on what you think are the pros and cons of each game? Okay, well, so the biggest thing with 9th Age is that it's Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So it's granular like Warhammer Fantasy Battle. It has all of the list building options. When I say granular, I don't know if everyone knows what that means. What granular means is the options are deep and fiddly. So you can tinker with little things like individual models in a unit. You can tinker with that. All of the weapons and equipment loadouts, you can tinker with that. It literally means there's lots of little bits that make up the whole. That's why you call it granular. Whereas the polar opposite of that is Kings of War. And in Kings of War, your unit selections are not granular at all, and in fact, magic items are there to simply fill in the points at the end and basically make your armies tweaked a little bit so you can change the characteristics of units slightly, but it's not so much that you're even picking specific unit sizes, you're just picking them in lumps. So the lumps would be a troop, a legion, a horde, sorry, a troop, a regiment, a legion, a troop, a regiment, a horde, a legion, which are the 4 big sizes basically of units, and then heroes, monsters, and war machines. And the gameplay is also less granular. So in Kings of War, units are attacking units. They're single models. A footprint of models is a single model. Whereas in 9th Age, just like in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, it's an individual model. You still do fast dice and roll them all together, but if a guy dies, you lose that attack from the unit. So the models are representative of what they are. They're individuals in a unit. And I find that that just appeals to different mindsets. Some people love the sort of magnifying glass that you can zoom into the individual on in Warhammer Fantasy and the ability they have to tinker with everything. And some people are looking for a holistic experience where they don't have to worry about that so much, and they can kind of bodge together an army and play a game. And so I think from a sort of like personal standpoint, it's what I'm in the mood for, but I see the argument between the two of them as being very Mac versus PC, right? The PC is a granular piece of technology where you can tinker with all the component parts, understand how the moving bits work, whereas a Mac is just plug and go, and it has a level of intuitiveness that the PC maybe doesn't. And so I think it really is what you're in the mood for. What I'm loving about Kings of War right now is that I can make an army list in about 10 minutes. I can play a game in an hour. And so I can play through 2 or 3 variations of my list in 3 or 4 hours and have like 3 or 4 games. And that's, to me, there's something really compelling about that, because most of the action in Kings of War isn't the lead up to, it's actually the game itself happening on the table. Whereas you can spend hours and weeks and months tinkering with a Warhammer Fantasy Battle army, and then hours playing the game, right? So 6 turns of Warhammer Fantasy Battle could take 3 or 4 hours if you're just going at a leisurely pace, and usually it takes the full 2 hours if you're even doing it in a tournament. And yeah, and so I think it's just what you're in the mood for. It's do you want to pay that close of an attention to what you're doing and the models you're making and stuff, or do you want to zoom back a little bit and have the gameplay focus more on what your whole army is doing rather than what the individual is doing? And that seems to really be it. So when you talk about 9th Age, you can really just interject Warhammer Fantasy Battle experiences in general, because it's the same game. It's been tweaked. People will argue it's not the same game because of the changes and stuff to it, but it really is the same game. It hasn't fundamentally changed enough. Mechanics have been altered to make them more streamlined and intuitive, but it is still Warhammer Fantasy. At its core, it just feels like a belt tightening on Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, with some changes to magic and some balance changes and stuff like that. But the game is, identity-wise, it feels the same. Whereas Kings of War is much more closer, it's much closer to Matt Ward's War of the Ring than it is to Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and the emphasis is entirely on turn-by-turn planning in the movement phase. Your list construction is important. I'm not going to argue it isn't, because there are very powerful builds you can take, but 90% of the game can be won or lost on the table, as opposed to certain list constructions in Warhammer Fantasy can be very dominating. Last 2 Warhammer Fantasy games you saw me play against a Warriors Chaos Army, which had a very powerful flying monster build in it, which my Bretonnians, they did their best against, but it wasn't necessarily something that I could necessarily win on the table. I had to play for the advantages I have, refuse flanks, and use the terrain as best I could to try and gain the advantage, which I didn't end up doing in the end. Whereas in Kings of War, flying units are very powerful, and individual flying monsters are very powerful, but it's very rare that a flying monster charging the front of a unit can stop it. And if they get flanked or rear charged, they're dead. So positioning and where you are and stuff counts for a huge amount. It does count in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but it's the whole game in Kings of War. So it's kind of a non-answer, but it really is, what are you looking for in a gameplay experience? I don't think one's better or worse, and the wonderful thing is they're interchangeable. If you have a Warhammer Fantasy Battle army, you have a Kings of War army. Not necessarily vice versa, because my Kings of War army won't work in Warhammer Fantasy Battle because I've got everything modeled for making it pretty now. Right, my Ogre army is all modeled so that the models themselves are dioramas. But the 9th Age army would go into a Kings of War game just fine as long as the footprints are right. So I think it is what you're in the mood for, and I hope that explains where my mind's at with it. I like playing Kings of War because it's a super intuitive, fast, quick-to-play game, as opposed to Ninth Age. If I want like an in-depth experience, I think that's what I'm going to go for. Martin asks, hey Ash, you spoke about Warzone a few shows ago. Could we expect any basics, battle reports, and more info? Thanks. Yeah, actually my buddy Jay, who you've seen in my This Is Not a Test games and Frostgrave games, he is currently painting the Imperial starter for that, and I'm painting the Bauhaus starter. And we have, it's funny because Jay is one of like 3 or 4 people that you see on my channel all the time, where I know if something comes in and I'm like, hey, do you want to? He'll just be like, yes. And we make these plans, and like he's just an awesome like talent in like getting stuff done, and just like his creative mind and stuff like that. And he's super fun on the camera, as you guys have seen, because I know you guys enjoy him a lot. And so when Warzone came in, he and I actually played 2nd edition Warzone a lot together, and so it was just an instant like, yes, of course we will. So, but the problem is that because he's that guy, there's a bunch of other games we're playing with him as well right now, and he's doing This Is Not a Test with me and Frostgrave with me, and we tend to have like our projects planned out pretty far in advance, because we both have kids, we both have, you know, a fairly time-intensive schedule, and so it's there, and it's on the list, but it's like 1 or 2 things down the road. So you'll probably see it maybe in August, if all goes well and we get it filmed relatively soon, get it filmed sometime in July maybe. And yeah, and he's super excited to play it, because again, it's one of the back in the day games we both played. So it's on the list, it's coming. It's just a matter of getting all the other stuff knocked off, because he's an in-demand gamer, I guess, in my network of people. And he's the one that will always say yes to crazy projects, which makes him, I think, invaluable, not just to me, but to you guys, because it means that these crazy projects can happen. And he likes the same wacky stuff I like too, so it'll be perfect. Ty asks, what are your thoughts on the existing Star Wars games from Fantasy Flight? What do you want to see from them in the future? Okay, that's an interesting question, because I'm actually not necessarily engaged myself in those games, because most of them don't. It's fine, I've just stopped painting, I'm just talking at this point. I'm not super engaged by them myself, because a lot of them don't involve painting, and so I'm not drawn to them the way I'm drawn to other games, where I go, oh, I want to build that, I want to paint that, I want to play with that. But I love what they do for miniature wargaming in general, because they make it accessible, and they draw people into that kind of a hobby that wouldn't necessarily be drawn to it because of they might feel put off by having to build and paint models. And so I think it's a great draw to sort of like the broader market of, hey, can I do this? Hey, look at how accessible this game is. Maybe I'll try a different game in the future, because I like these kinds of games now. I've experienced what it's like to play a tabletop game. And I hope they just keep that up. I'm actually, I've got some sort of real hopes that when they continue to do these sort of mass market IP games, that they keep that in mind and they keep trying to draw new audiences, because I think it's just good for the health of wargaming in general. Even the board games that they do that have a heavy miniature component can tempt people into trying a tabletop hobby. And so I think that the more of those they do, that's just good for the mass market in general, because they have such a great presence in Barnes & Noble and booksellers and comic book shops. They're doing a lot of passive sort of like market expansion for everyone that everybody benefits from. So indie games benefit from it, all the other companies that make miniatures. There's a knock-on effect, because people become interested in playing with model soldiers, basically is what it is. And I hope they keep doing that. I keep going backwards instead of forward on my questions here. Arias asks, have you ever checked out, what are your thoughts on Firestorm Armada? Would you consider a short Infinity Spec Ops narrative campaign with Owen? Thanks for all your hard work. 2 questions, you only get 1. I have checked out Firestorm Armada. I played it ages and ages ago. Actually, Mike from Epic Duck and myself both have fleets. It's just something that hasn't come up really to play in a long time. I have a good buddy Christian too back in Toronto. He's played a bunch of the ground scale one. It's Firestorm Armada? Planetfall, I think it's called. Firestorm Planetfall or whatever, the one where it's tanks and little 3 mil guys. And yeah, no, it just hasn't come up. It's funny, because it's just one of those things where like, we've been playing other games. We played Star Wars Armada a bunch, we played Gothic a bunch, and I guess I kind of like filled our spaceship game niche, and we didn't feel super drawn to it. But I have buddies out in Alberta. Actually, my buddy Jason Stevens out in Alberta, he loves that game, and I see pictures of him painting models and putting them down all the time. And I'm sure we'll come back around to it. Usually if it's a game that's kind of like, it's been out for a while and it's kind of cooled off a bit, What'll get it on the channel is if it gets a new edition. So like if it gets a new edition and people are getting excited about it again, you'll see it come back on the channel because I'll dust off whatever models I have and paint them and give it a try, you know, because people are excited about it and it tends to be, there's a buzz. And I love buzz because it means that people will come in and actually play me and throw down some dice. And as far as the Spec Ops campaign, there's actually, because the problem is Paradiso hasn't been updated, so the Spec Ops rules haven't really been updated and they become a bit incompatible with Human Sphere and 3. Like there's like equipment types in the Spec Ops now that just don't exist. So like you can get a mine layer skill for one of your Spec Ops guys. Mine layer no longer equips a model with mines. So I can buy a guy a skill, but because he doesn't have any deployable equipment, he can't use it, right? There's just some weird inconsistencies there now, and it's become a bit, we'd have to fudge it a bit to do the campaign. And I'm tempted just to save that, like I said with the Firestorm stuff, for when they do Acheron Falls and there is a new campaign system, and do it right the first time, if that makes sense. Instead, what we might do is some skirmish games. I really want to do a Let's Play for Infinity, and also for Malifaux actually, because I get asked about them a lot. And there's people who, it's funny because I started those videos before I had the idea to do Let's Plays. There are people coming in and watching that content now that have never seen the game before, and they find it a bit hard to follow, and so they'll ask me to do Let's Plays for that. I'll get messages and stuff saying, can you do this? Because if I had that, I'd be able to follow these content streams. I'm interested in this game, but it's hard to, these are these games that are hard to pick up. Like Malifaux, especially because it doesn't use dice, can be really hard for a tabletop gamer just to get immersed into, because you don't really know what's going on. Like, why is that guy hit? Why is that guy missed? And the box set, the starter set for Malifaux is super conducive. We could just go through the missions for that and it would be a perfect Let's Play. So Chris and I from Lords of War have been playing that for a while, and it's actually in the docket for June. And then for Infinity, again, it's just such a rules dense game, and understanding how the modifiers and stuff work, I think it would be great to do like a little 100-point. I don't think I'd do Ice Storm. I think I'd make my own rules. I do my own rules. I do my own little missions basically to do a Let's Play and show people the basic mechanics. And I've got some scenery coming in the near future that I'm really excited about. But it's very small, so we couldn't really do like a full game of Infinity on it, but we could do a very cool Let's Play 100-point game. And I think that's going to happen. So yeah, you'll probably see something like that instead of seeing a full-on Spec Ops campaign, but that's in the cards. I mean, when Acheron Falls eventually comes out, probably in 2017, if I'm still here and still doing this, I hope I am, knock on wood, then you'll see something like that. Guybrush Threepwood asks, hey Ash, thanks for answering my last question last month about Heavy Gear. As for this month, I have to ask, are you hyped for Dawn of War 3? Any mechanics you hope they keep from previous games? I honestly haven't played a PC game in... It's funny, you know, the last PC game I played in 2014 when I came back here from the US, a buddy of mine had found me there was very briefly on what's it, GameStick? There's a website that archives old games when they become freeware and makes them available to the public, and they'd done a Mac port of all of the first 3 Fallout games. They'd done Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics, and a buddy of mine had saved them and sent them to me. And so the last 3 games I played on my Mac, on my computer, my desktop, my laptop actually, was Fallout 1, 2, and 3. So I played games that were like almost 20 years old. And I don't really play PC games. And honestly, I played the first Dawn of War because I was a bit involved in it, because I was doing we did the battle report for North America for the launch of the first Dawn of War game. My Blood Raven Army was made before the video game even came out for that battle report. And so that was why I kind of played that game, but I didn't really play I never played the second one. I played maybe one of the expansions for the first one, and I didn't play the third one, so it doesn't really... I mean, the trailer looks cool, but if you want to get somebody who's going to play and record that game, Owen will probably definitely play that game. I almost guarantee you'll see Owen doing tons and tons of videos on that, and he's your video game guy. He'll play the video games with you. My video games are all solo console games when I get to play them. I have a huge backlog of games that I haven't played. Sean Haynes UK asks, hey man, if you were given $1 million on the condition that you had never had anything to do with miniature gaming again, playing, painting, collecting, etc., would you do it? $1 million isn't a lot of money, so no. Sad that in this day and age, $1 million is not a lot of money, but $1 million, like, maybe if I invested it wisely, I could live off it like a pauper for the rest of my life, but $1 million is not a lot of money. You can make $1 million in like the first 10 years of your life now. if you just count up all the money you make. The problem is that making $100,000 a year isn't even that much money anymore. It's an adequate amount of money. If your family income combined between you and your spouse doesn't equal $100,000, you're not really living in middle class anymore in North America. So yeah, I'm gonna say no. It's not that much money, and I would prefer to enjoy I'd rather be poor and have a wonderful pastime that keeps me sane and hang out with my kids all the time than have a little bit of extra money and no future happiness. House of the Diving Charges, I don't even know what that means, asks, with so many More Time videos in the bank, could you please post 2 of them every other Thursday? Love. No. You guys will get sick of More Time eventually. There's so many great specialist games out there. I do have tons of More Time videos in the bank, but that being said, all that lets me do is keep my lead time, and it lets me have the time to make and find people that want to record other old, cool, under production games. So I'd love to say yes, but no. I need the time, first of all, to be able to bring other games out there, and people get sick of it. Nobody ever wants to watch More Time all the time. Here's the thing is, a thing has value if it's appreciated, and it's only appreciated if you don't have it in abundance, like a diamond. Which is why it's weird that diamonds are still appreciable in value, because we can make them and they're exactly identical to regular diamonds. So it's just a fabrication of modern society that's valuable. The Angry Can asks, I see you painted some Robotech minis. What's your favorite character from the series and why? Probably Global, because like he's in charge and he's awesome and he takes no crap from anybody. Yeah, no, I'd say Global. Global's my favorite, because it's not sexy to like Global either. Like, he's not a pilot, he's not a fighter pilot, but he holds it all together and he's the boss and he's the big mentor figure too. So I like Global. Mr. Mortis asks, hey Ash, I saw in your latest paying table video that you have some RPG Tactics minis, Robotech ones. We'll be doing battle reports and let's play videos on that game. Probably not. I'll be honest, no. And the reason for that is I haven't really even opened the box and looked at it, and I don't know if that game's gonna grow. I know it sounds sad, but that game right now is kind of stalled where it is. There's lots of reasons for that I don't really want to get into, but the company and how they've basically had their game go. But if it does start to grow again, there's a possibility I'll do them. But right now, there's so many other indie producers out there that slot could be filled by, that I gave my time and attention to. I'd rather do that, if that makes sense. That company had their crowdfund and acquired their money and kind of is in the middle of their production chance, and if they can get it rolling, great, maybe I'll make some more videos. But they have models that are cool and I'll paint and play with the models, but I'd rather use that time slot to help people that don't have $1.5 million in cash influx. You know, they're currently, that was their working capital. Don't know what they're doing with it, but that's not the working capital of the average guy with an indie game. Like, take Sean and Relic Blade, for instance, Metal King Studios, or Joey and This Is Not a Test. I think my time's better spent making videos to help those guys in that same time slot. Sharkbait hoo-ha-ha. That's a Finding Nemo reference. Oh my God. I don't even know who would know that I watch that movie like 7 times a week with my kids. Hey Ash, great work. Been following you since day one. Do you miss your War Machine? I do miss your War Machine Robot Rampage videos. Will they be coming back? They will be coming back. They won't be called Robot Rampage. And actually, I'm filming the first one tonight. And you'll have already seen the video when this comes out on Monday. So I hope you enjoy War Machine Mark III. We've got a very late night ahead of us to get that video ready for you guys to watch. But it'll be a new series title, and yeah, whole new game, hopefully. Blue Moose Drew asks, do the 40K paintings hang beside you in almost all your video intros have any special significance? It looks like the one in the middle might be signed. They are signed, actually. They were gifts to me by my buddy Drew. We worked together for years and years back in Memphis and traveled a lot with GW together. And the signed one is signed by Paul Sawyer, Robin Dews, and I think Andy Chambers. So some sort of like classic 90s studio fixtures from the White Dwarf crew and from the GW studio. And yeah, it's the cover from the Armageddon Codex, which many of you might not remember because I just realized that's like 16 years ago. No, 17 years ago. I would have been 99 was the Armageddon campaign. Wow. Yeah, it's a long time ago. But no, they're just some of my favorite art pieces from various years. And then that autograph one was a gift he gave to me when I was leaving Memphis. And I like it a lot. So yeah, that's why it's there. It's your worst downwind. Sorry, it's worse downwind. What? Asks, what game universe would you rather be in? Sigmar, Dark Age, or This Is Not a Test, or any other universe you can think of? Thanks, Ash. So in the Age of Sigmar, I'm in an extra-dimensional city in some kind of cosmic fantasy, probably being murdered by chaos. In Dark Age, I'm on another planet, abandoned by a bunch of illegal corporations, and surrounded by, like, biogenetic experiment monsters, cannibal machine people, and an apocalypse church. Or This Is Not a Test, I'm where I live right now, except the world's ended. Probably This Is Not a Test, because at least I can handle that. You know what I mean? Like, at least there's known parameters to the planet. I'm not gonna accidentally eat a plant that just kills me. Like, it might kill me, but like, it'll kill me because of radiation, not because I ate a grape and it wasn't a grape, you know, like, whereas in Age of Sigmar or Dark Age, like, I'm on another planet or I'm in some kind of cosmic fantasy city and things would be terrible. And plus, you could probably still get most things you like. Now you just have to be smart enough to fix them in This Is Not a Test. So I'm gonna go with This Is Not a Test. I'd probably die badly in all three of them, but at least I'm gonna die in a familiar place if I'm in This Is Not a Test. The Art of Caesura asks, hey Ash, have you seen the trailer for Modern Warfare 3? Any chance your Blood Raven's making a reappearance? Hope your wife's recovering from her surgery. She is, thanks for saying so. She's actually fully recovered now. It's been a month. And my Blood Raven's making a reappearance. I actually have an idea for my Blood Raven army, and it's not to actually bring back my 25 mil base Blood Ravens, but to do the second half of the battle company with new minis. And it might actually happen before August, because I have something which you can probably see me post about today. It might come out later on this week, but I'll tell you, I got recruited by the Lords of War guys to do a special event in August that isn't a Lords of War weekend, so it's not 6 games over the course of 2 days. It's just one game. It's 40K, and it's going to be called the 40K Classic. And the 40K Classic is going to be 7th edition 40K, but a completely different format for playing it, where you basically take a trip back in time and the mission structure and the army selection is done the way it was done like 15 years ago. So it's the exact same game as today, but it's not gonna, it'll be really interesting because I think it's gonna flip the table over on how 40K is played right now. And because they wanted to do something really different, and they asked me to write a tournament pack, and I wrote the tournament pack, and I think it's gonna be pretty cool. And I'm actually probably gonna go and play in it and film all the games. And so I want to do an army for that event, because I need to get excited about 40K again, because I'm not super excited about it right now, and I love being challenged, and so Jay and Chris sent me a kind of a challenge, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So it's gonna be a 2-day event. There'll be a singles and a doubles event. I think I'll just be there for the singles one, but yeah, you'll be able to see the mission pack sometime this week. It'll be August 20th and 21st at the same venue we hold Lords of War weekends in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be kind of tongue-in-cheek, cheeky. It's going to be a retro 40K tournament, and I think it's going to be super cool. So kind of biting on the idea of like how 8-bit video games became cool again, and retro gaming is becoming kind of cool again. It's going to be 40K, but in a retro way. And I think it should be pretty fun. It's going to be kind of punk rock. I think I'm looking forward to it. So we might see my Blood Ravens back for that event, or a different army, but I'm going to paint 1,500 points of something. Nazier Rising asks, since you're getting into Bushido, any plans to try out Tori Skirmish Game by Zenith? It's possible. I'm going to have a little bit of sort of like feudal Japan style scenery built for Bushido. It only takes place on a 2x2 board, like it's very small, so I won't have a ton of scenery done for it, just bits and pieces that I can appropriate for that game. But it's entirely possible. I might. I'll try anything. The problem is that people love suggesting things, and I am a one-man show. I am just one guy, and getting to everything is a challenge and a half. So let's knock one off the list first. That's one fine piece of ash asks, which game comes across as abysmal, goofy, or even downright Cruella to you, or your opponent when playing it? That's 3 different Disney bad guy names. That's gotta be Chris. Significantly less than 200 Disney characters used. That was pretty good though. What games are cruel and abysmal and not so great? it's funny. I've not ever had a bad opponent here come into the co-op and play a game with me ever. I've never really had a bad opponent in general, I don't think. But there are certain sort of like gaming cultures that I'm not as aligned with as others. I would say, and it's not necessarily for the game's reason, like it's not even necessarily the game's fault. It's more the culture that those games have sort of like developed into. So for instance, going to a War Machine tournament has almost no appeal to me whatsoever. And it's because the vast majority of people I play against, we play with unpainted miniatures and playing on tables where the scenery is almost kind of considered to be an inconvenience. So it's just cutouts of shelf liner or felt or something like that. And while that's perfectly fine for those people, if it's what they enjoy and what enhances their gameplay experience, I have no connection with that whatsoever. And so, because what it is to me, playing a game is a mental exercise you're doing with someone together. And it's about creating an immersive experience, right? Where you can kind of hear the war drums pounding and you can hear the trumpets sounding and you're trying to outwit your opponent with this spectacle kind of going on in front of you. If part of that's shattered, right? If it's just purely a mental exercise, moving counters around, I get bored and disengaged. Like I will tune out from the game. I probably wouldn't even give a good game to the person I'm playing, not because I'm unhappy, because I'm disconnected. Like I'm not interested in what I'm doing, and so I'm not even really thinking about it. I'm not engaged in the experience, and so my gameplay probably would even suffer from it. And so that, and I'm just using War Machine example, but it's actually it would be any tournament experience that's like that. So like if I went to an Infinity tournament where stuff wasn't painted, and that's actually something I make a big point of doing, and actually even Owen, as focused on gaming as he is, we're very much in agreement on this. All of the tournaments we've run, and I've run as a war core, everything's painted. Every stick of scenery is painted, all our models are painted, and for the most part, we strongly encourage people to play painted. And there's for a bunch of reasons. One, it's my personal preference, but I don't necessarily want to superimpose it on people, but two, it sells the game better. People can't instantly see how good a gameplay experience is by walking by a table, but they can be attracted to beautifully painted miniatures on a beautifully painted table, and that can pique their interest. And that's, as a war core, I think that's the first sort of line of attack of building a community and getting more people interested in it. And it's so far, I mean, for the sort of like southern part of Ontario and Ontario in general, it seems to be working really well. And people have really enjoyed coming out to Lords of War weekends and the ITFS events that we've run, because they know, and we've never said you're obligated to paint, but I don't think anyone's ever shown up with unpainted miniatures. Not once. We've never had to even say that's not a thing. They tend to just show up with painted miniatures because everyone else has, and all the terrain, it almost like it's like water reaching the same level, you know what I mean? Like water will always reach the same level. Is if you set an expectation, people just kind of rise to it. And so any game where sort of the culture has gravitated towards the miniatures and the immersion experience being sublimated by the gameplay experience, I have no affinity with it. It's very esports generation, right? It's about being ranked and about being, you don't necessarily inject as much into the creation of the game as the game is just there to be experienced. And there's not a lot of effort required from you to experience the game, it's minimal. And it's funny because I just lauded that about X-Wing, but at the same time, that's why I don't play X-Wing a lot. It's why I don't play, if I played X-Wing, I have to repaint the miniatures. It's why I don't connect those games myself. I see the purpose they serve, and the sort of service they do to the community in general, but at the same time, I personally value the overall experience above a pure gameplay experience, and so I find myself disconnected from games and cultures that are kind of pushed that way. And it's not to say that it's bad, it's just not for me. Ferris Manis's Pet Frisbee, the names just get more bizarre. Where do you see GW going with Edus Mechanicus? Do you think it will get much bigger, possibly range compatible Necron's tower fairly soon, or will be slow build up? I think what you'll see is they'll put the codexes together. You're just gonna get one Mechanicum codex at some point, and all the arms will get labeled in there. I would actually be unsurprised if even the Knights didn't get filed into that book at some point, and you just had one big thick Skitarii Mechanicum Knights and it could just be called Codex Mars, you know what I mean, or Codex Forge Worlds or something like that. And it's just the amalgamation of all those rules into one setting. I think that's probably the best way to do it, is then you kind of, you fill in all the pieces at once, but it let them bring it out a bit at a time and still have it be playable. And I hope they do that, because I think as far as new factions in the game go, they're certainly the most interesting, because they're not on the surface really good at one thing, you know what I mean? But they have really interesting and different and unique kind of units and unit options. Floki asks, hey Ash, strongly thinking about becoming a henchman. The wargaming scene in my area is dying and I want to help the community grow back. How do you find the time with work and family duties? Well, it helps that I have the Lords of War weekends twice a year, and then I do bi-monthly tournaments with Lords of War guys. So I think the help that I get in making that happen, and I'm open for demos all the time at the studio too, sorry, is I have the advantage of having my own demo space, which is the studio. Then I have a store and their schedule driving when I do the rest of it. And so I'm kind of kept honest by that half. And then I have the advantage of being able to teach people how to play here that want to come in and record. So really it's just another thing sort of slotted into my recording schedule. And that's an advantage that not everybody has. So I think if you already had a steady gaming night that you were going to, if you fired your henchman duties into that night, and then maybe once a month did an event like a painting night or a league or a tournament, then you could probably find 80% of your henchman duties can already fall into something you're already doing playing the game. And then it's just about making a day a month where you go and do an additional thing. It's the same with war coring. Is I layer it into the schedule of my recording and stuff like that too. So that's kind of an advantage I have. But if you're already part of a club or a community that has a set schedule or like a fixed time that they get together, just start there. 70% of my time is stuff I'm already doing. I just need to find 25% to do a payoff day, you know what I mean? Whether it's a tournament or it's a whatever, a campaign day or something like that, whatever the game is you're playing and the thing you're helping out with, that is the culmination of all of my work for that month. I never get this name right. Charfei Engel? I'm sorry. So what are your thoughts on the reviving of Middle-earth SPG by GW? Love that we're gonna get Dane on a pig. I know, it's gonna be awesome. I'll be honest, I'm so stoked. I am so happy they're bringing that back. Adam Troke is an awesome designer. He is a kind of like fixture now in the studio. That's funny because I remember when he first was in the studio, and he's the perfect guy to have captain that. He loves Lord of the Rings. He's great with the community. He's always posting on Facebook in the Great Britain Hobbit League just what he's working on for Lord of the Rings as well. He's done a great job of like keeping the sort of like, I'd say, flame lit for Lord of the Rings. Both digitally and I think at Warhammer World too, because he's done a bunch of event stuff on top of that. And so with the proc samples that showed up at Warhammer Fest, man, it's gonna be a great time to be in the Lord of the Rings. It has a really strong following. I honestly think in some ways becoming a bit unsupported by GW was a shot in the arm for it, because it forced people to get off their butts, and if they wanted to still have a community and things to do, to organize themselves, a bit like Blood Bowl. And the great thing about fans is when they're a fan of something, they will always put in a little bit of extra effort and an extra mile. They're not waiting for anybody to do anything for them. A bit like GW stopping running its own big official tournaments gave rise to these big conventions like Adepticon and the LVO and these organizations that run the competitive play. I think that having the league, the Great Britain Hobbit League, kind of set an example, because they were kind of forced to do it on their own, has been really, really good for just bringing people together and getting people playing the game organized across the world. I know that I was super surprised when I started doing Lord of the Rings again, when this channel started last year, about the fact that there was kind of a branch of the GBHL in Ontario. There was the Ontario Hobbit League, and they got together and they played games. There was a 32-person tournament in downtown Toronto last month that Adam and the guys from Blackfire Productions went to, Adam and Taylor, and it was huge. There was beautiful tables and all these. And I was like, I was blown away. I was just blown away by the quality and the level of work that went into it, and so with that kind of groundwork now, if they just get given more cool and exciting stuff, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be fantastic. The community's just going to get stronger. Yeah, it'll roll more players into it. Because, like I said earlier, the more you see people having fun doing something, the more likely you're going to want to join in. The last edition, the Hobbit rules for Lord of the Rings, are probably the best edition of the game. The scenarios are great. The rules are great. The warband building's great. It's funny because when it came out, I remember playing a bunch of it with my buddy Don at the bunker that was in Memphis. And we had a blast, but like it had kind of petered out at that point, and the game was so good. And I remember he was really frustrated by it. The game was great, but he was putting tons of effort into playing and building armies and stuff. And we were in the office too, but it just it didn't click for some reason. People just didn't get as excited about it as we did. And I think it just came down to not trying it. They gave it a pass, prejudging that they already knew what it was going to be. And I think that the last few years, as it's kind of simmered, it's been really the community that was really excited about it that kind of picked it up and kept it rolling, and I think it's been great. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It's gonna be great. I hope, Don, if you ever watch this, that you recognize that I saw how much effort you put into the Hobbit stuff, and damn man, you love that game, and it was awesome watching you love that game. Josh from the District Wastelands asks, hey, would you try to bring more players into your friendly local gaming store to play non-Warhammer type skirmish games? We need to build interest in cottage games at a local level. Would I do that? Yes. I think the key is, so especially if you're doing indie games and cottage games, if you want your local game store owner to be excited about that too, there has to be something in it for them. So to show up and use a guy's space to get excited about a product that he may not benefit from or sell is not the best, unless he can get it, unless there was a way for him to order it and sell it to people, is not necessarily the best way to grow a community. Whereas if it's an indie game, you can use stuff he already sells in. So like for instance, if you went into a local independent retailer that sells Warhammer and played Frostgrave with nothing but Warhammer models, you know what I mean? Like if you were converting Empire Wizards and Free Company and even just whoever, like whatever it is, Stormcast into Stone Golems, like whatever it is, bad wizards and good wizards, and playing the game, he's going to see the immediate benefit of, hey look, I'm selling all, or even if he's got Reaper figs and you're using Reaper figs, whatever it is, he's going to see the immediate benefit, oh look, I'm selling all this stuff I didn't necessarily sell before. You'll be able to have a conversation with that guy to say, yeah, you should just get this rulebook in. It's just a rulebook. There's a line of models you can get too, but if you get the rulebook in, you'll sell more Reaper miniatures, you'll sell more Warhammer. Like, to get a game going like that, that's, for indie games and cottage industry games especially, their biggest strength is usually that they don't care what kind of miniatures you're using. They might have a small selection of miniatures you can get that are official, but for the most part, it's just find something cool and use it and use the models you like. That's your best in the door to get in the friendly local gaming store and doing it. And then it's exactly the same process I said earlier. Just play it, have an extra army ready and set aside so other people can try it, and that's how you grow a player base. And then make sure there's something in it for the game store owner, because you're using his space, you know what I mean? Like, he is giving you something you didn't have, which is the ability to put down and play a game. And so pay it back to him by giving him the sort of financial benefit, and then you'll gain the benefit of more players and more people to play with. Dr. T asks, awesome collection of band t-shirts you've got there, mate. What's your favorite band? Well, it's funny. Somebody commented on my last paint show. I think it was one of my on the paint table, because I was wearing a Clutch t-shirt. And he was like, how many Clutch t-shirts do you own? And I was like, I have like 20 or 30 Clutch t-shirts. Probably as many. I have as many Clutch t-shirts as I've been to Clutch shows. And that's not as many as my buddy Owen from BC, who, if you ever watch this, hey Owen, I know you have more Clutch shirts than I do, and I know you've been to more Clutch shows than I've been to, and I think you're probably at a Clutch show right now, probably, as I say this. But my favorite band, probably, especially to see live, would be Clutch. If you've never heard of them, they're from Maryland, and sort of like the DC, Maryland, North Virginia sort of area. Yeah, they're a fantastic band. They are probably one of the best bands ever to see live. And they make music. If you ever want to know how my brain works and the things I'm into, the sort of like free-form, self-referential, alliteratory lyrics of that band might just be like I guess the B-roll of my brain. Like, you could just see, like, you could just basically watch like a film reel of all the things going through my head as they sing about like Minotaurs and the Illuminati and random sea ship captains, and it's all the things that I think are cool probably are in some way encapsulated by Clutch lyrics. So Great bands. I like tons of bands though. I'm not really, to say they're my favorite band is probably not as accurate as to say. The band I can always listen to and I'll just listen to the most. But I love music from like, you know, all the way back to like Skip Williams and Nina Simone through to, you know, today, like listening to things like, Aesop Rock and Black Alicious, and like it's so funny, like there's bands all through the ages that I like, and I love music in general, but it tends to be that I have band t-shirts from the concerts I go to. Usually that's where I buy band t-shirts. I don't go online and buy band t-shirts, and so that'll be the bands that I'll take the time to go out and see will be the ones that you'll see me wearing t-shirts for. I guess the last question. What do we got? We got Brogel Dorn. He's the bro. Ash, do you think 30K will eventually eclipse 40K in popularity? If it did, would GW be able to resist the temptation to fall into powers and codex creeps that affected 40K? No, it won't. And I'll give you a real simple why, and it's because as much as there's 30K cool stuff we haven't seen yet, 30K exists in a box. It starts at this point, it ends at this point, and you eventually hit the end. It like all good things, it comes to an end. You run out of Horus Heresy. Now, there's a million stories that happen in Horus Heresy, and they can probably explore them forever. But when it comes to factions and the armies and stuff, it's Space Marine Legion, it's humanity at war with itself, right? So it's just whatever exists inside humanity. All the other races have been conquered to the point where they're no longer even really a threat. Like even the orcs are effectively neutralized off at the edge of the galaxy. And so I honestly don't think that you will see Horus Heresy stuff forever. I remember when the first Horus Heresy book came out, we had a brief talking about how it was only going to be X number of books, and it's like 35 or 40 books more than that now. Like it's been a ton of novels, and they've explored tons of corners of the universe. But the story will eventually move on and get to the Siege of Terra and get to the fight between the Emperor and Horus, and there will be a conclusion, right? And so, while I don't think that's going to make it any less popular, like most historical games, once you've explored a period in history, you have to either move on to a new period in history, or start all over again, like reset it and start making brand new models or something. But I don't think it's ever going to gain that popularity. And the big key there is, it is still kind of a prestige interest. You're buying the most expensive Space Marine model kits. You're buying the most expensive, highest quality tanks and planes and flyers and dreadnoughts. They're not just plastic kits, they're resin kits and resin and specialty brass etch and all kinds of stuff. And so I think part of the mystique and popularity of 30K is it's the prestige version of 40K, right? There's that kind of like nose in the air sort of mentality of, oh, you play 40K, I play 30K. That's kind of, there's a class war there, I think, going on. And so if it ever became too popular, the hipsters would move on to the next thing you've never heard of. Oh, you play, I play this game called 30K, you probably never heard of it. That kind of thing. And then Perturabro, Brogildorn and Perturabro, you stuck in 2 questions. Did you change browsers? Like, why did you do that? Are you excited about the Warhammer Quest Silver Tower release and the Warhammer Quest line reboot? Do you have any stories from Warhammer Quest from the days of yore that you'd like to share? So, am I excited about it? I think it's super cool they're doing it. I think it's the quality of the box is amazing. The hero models, that Chaos Barbarian model, the dark something might be the nicest miniature in a box game I think I've ever seen. It's just a fabulous miniature. I love that they let you use any hero from the Age of Sigmar line. They give you rules right in the box for just anybody. I think that's super cool. I will be playing it actually. Mike from Black Knight Games is painting up his Silver Tower. He's going to bring it in so we can do some games. And what I'm excited about is I'm going to get to use all the heroes I painted for Realm Quest in this game. It's going to be awesome. I get to use all these guys. But that being said, you know, am I as excited about it as I am about the original Warhammer Quest? They feel like very different animals. One's just because of the setting. The original Warhammer Quest was literally a procedurally generated Dungeons and Dragons. This one is very much entrenched in the lore of the Age of Sigmar. So you've got these weird mutant goblins, you've got bird beastmen, you've got, you know, it very much is telling the story of the Silver Tower, and I'm fine with that. But for me, part of the excitement of a dungeon crawler like that, a hero-driven game, is that you are making your own hero and telling his story. Warhammer Quest: The Silver Tower is telling the story of the Silver Tower, and that's awesome, and it gives you lots of room for expansions and making more, I guess, story-driven stuff like that. And I hope they do build off of it. I think it's super cool. But they don't, while they are the same idea, their theme is divergent. Whereas I felt like there was a true going from dungeon to dungeon, right? Being adventuring sort of D&D characters in the original Warhammer Quest. This one, you're just exploring the tower, basically. There's not so much going back to the inn afterwards and counting your treasure and then finding a new dungeon, which is what Warhammer Quest was. And so I'm excited. I think it's gonna be super cool, but it doesn't hit the nostalgia button for me, right? The way that a Warhammer Quest reboot, the way it was, probably would. I think Blood Bowl, you're gonna see me go off the deep end for, because Blood Bowl exists in its own universe. It's kind of safe from rebranding that way, in that you can't change the Blood Bowl universe. The Blood Bowl universe is a goofy, tongue-in-cheek imitation of the old world, and so it's kind of safe from tampering and tinkering. And I'm fine with that. I think that's awesome. I think that the Warhammer Silver Quest game is going to be awesome. It's going to bring Warhammer Quest to a whole new generation of people. But does it kick off my nostalgia button? Not the way that the Blood Bowl game is probably going to. And you'll see me play it, obviously. People are going to bring it in and we'll play a whole bunch. But it's not going to be... I'm not going to do a whole series just on Silver Tower the way I probably will on Blood Bowl, because I won't be able to help myself. So anyway, there we go. So that looks like it. Now remember, I am giving away this measuring gauge right here to one person who likes and subscribes to this video. So like the video, leave a comment saying give me that gauge, and then subscribe to my channel, and I'll give that out at the end of the week and ship it to you anywhere in the world. So thanks for watching. It's been a crazy year. I can't believe that this is the 17th piece of ash. I'm running out of them. They're just carving them off me. And yeah, you'll be able to see the stats at the end of the video, but over 400 videos. I painted almost 1,000 miniatures. Yeah, I played like 400 and change games. We brought a ton of new products to market and helped people like bring their indie stuff to people to see. One of the games that we helped feature really early on won Game of the Year for 2 different big awards. Yeah, it's been bananas. It's been a really rewarding year. I hope you guys aren't sick of asking me questions. I got through 33 out of 52, so 19 of you didn't get your questions asked, so make sure you click below and get them asked. Yeah, I'll answer them in July's show. This was June's show. Yeah, and wow, what a crazy 365 days. So let's do another year. A big thank you to everybody from the Indiegogo campaign that backed the initial campaign to buy a camera, that turned into a studio, that turned into Mike and Owen having a place to record their videos, that turned into an opportunity for people to basically bring and show and be excited about whatever they want to be excited about, and for this place to be kind of an independent spirit in wargaming and digitally on YouTube. So another huge thank you to the people that backed us through Patreon afterwards, because we wouldn't still be here. We had 6 months worth of money in the beginning, and we've gone 12, and it's the people in Patreon that make bringing you guys that watch this stuff on YouTube for free all of this stuff. They're really passionate people that are passionate about wargaming in general. They don't tend to be people that are passionate about one game, but they're more passionate about the idea of toy soldiers and community and just fun, and they're the best people in the world. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next month for another piece of Ash. Till then, I'm Ash. Apple Gaming.